Mercury is shrinking, not eroding, not losing mass to space. The entire planet is physically getting smaller, its rocky shell wrinkling like the skin of a grape drying into a raisin under the sun. NASA's Messenger spacecraft spent 4 years photographing the surface, and what it found stunned scientists. Towering cliffs, some taller than Mount Rainier, snaking across thousands of miles of Mercury's face. Those cliffs aren't from an asteroid impact. They're wrinkles. The planet is contracting so hard it's cracking its own crust and pushing the pieces up and over each other, like a bedsheet bunching on a shrinking mattress. Here's why it's happening. Mercury has a massive iron core, proportionally the largest of any planet in the solar system, taking up about 85% of its radius. Over 4.5 billion years, that molten core has been slowly cooling and solidifying, and as it cools, it contracts, exactly like a cooling engine block tightens as it loses heat. Since the planet formed, Mercury's radius has shrunk by as much as 4.5 miles. That may not sound like much for a whole planet, but it means Mercury's entire outer shell has had nowhere to go but to buckle, fold, and crack under its own shrinking frame. We post 3 of these every day, so subscribe if you want the next one landing in your feed. The cliffs left behind are called lobate scarps, and some of them are enormous, Enterprise roops. One of the largest stretches nearly 620 miles long and rises over 2 miles high in places, a cliff face bigger than anything ever formed this way on Earth. Scientists used to think Mercury had gone quiet, its shrinking finished billions of years ago. Then the Messenger spacecraft spotted something that changed everything. Tiny fault scarps, some barely taller than a building, sat right on top of the older, giant cliffs, and these small ones looked fresh, geologically speaking, maybe less than 50 million years old. On a planet that's practically yesterday, that meant Mercury wasn't finished shrinking. It was still contracting, still active, its crust still settling like a piece of fruit that keeps shriveling long after you thought it was done drying out. Hit the bell so you don't miss what scientists think is causing those recent cracks. If Mercury is still shrinking today, that means quakes could still be rippling through a planet everyone assumed was a dead rock, frozen since the solar system was young. The BP Colombo mission, a joint European and Japanese spacecraft, is now orbiting Mercury specifically to listen for that kind of activity, hunting for proof that the smallest planet is still alive in the most literal sense, still moving, still groaning, still shrinking under its own weight. That would mean Mercury isn't a fossil frozen in place. It's the only planet in our neighborhood we know for certain is still changing shape while we watch, its whole surface quietly folding in on itself like fruit forgotten in a bowl for 4 billion years. And if a planet that close could shrink for that long without anyone noticing until we finally looked close enough, it raises the question of what else nearby has been changing right under our nose. Comment below if you knew Mercury was still shrinking before today.